in front of New York City's public library, and there's a few things I want to talk about this library. If you tune in, if you quiet your mind, not like these busy, crazy streets right now, but if you quiet your mind, I want you to try to tune into something with me. Below me, in the ground, there are really interesting sounds, residual sounds. And in those sounds, I'm going to give you a little bit of a clue, but start by calming your mind, sitting quietly, relaxing. Underneath me are residual sounds of some kind of elemental nature. So think about that for a second. Crackling of wood, water-like energy. What do you hear? Try to tune out all the noise around you. What do you hear? Do you hear water? When I was here in the early 90s and I first came to this area of Bryant Park, so we're on the eastern side of Bryant Park where the public library is. When I did research, I found out that prior to this library being built in 1911 was this area called Reservoir Park. It was called Reservoir Park because the entire area where the public library is from the north side all the way down to the south side was a really large reservoir. But what they did in Reservoir Park is they housed all of New York City's drinking water. So in 1847, when the reservoir was built, they had all of the river coming down from Westchester from what was called the Croton River. The Croton River. So there's a Croton aqueduct that came from Westchester, came down this way. There's still a residual aqueduct underneath me, and they had all the water here. Now, the height of the reservoir was about the same height as this public library now. And in the Victorian time era, it was a great big square enclosure. You could walk up the enclosure and then walk around as a promenade and look down into the water. And that's what housed New York City's predominant water during the Victorian time era. And it stayed like that only for about 5 decades. And about 1890, they tore it down to build this library. If you quiet your mind, you can still hear some of where the aqueduct was. They rerouted it in 1890. And in fact, some of the original infrastructure is still underneath the library. If you go into the library, you can find certain corners that still show some of the original stonework that was used to have New York City's reservoir, which is why it was called Reservoir Park until they renamed it Bryant Park after William Cullen Bryant, the vampire of New York City. Total vampire.